Thank you.
We are here at SMS Advance for a change. It's not raining in Seattle,
Yeah.
but
This is the first sunny year we've had at SMX Advance, which is pretty impressive.
Exactly. So I was completely impressed with your presentation
Thank
yesterday
you.
and all the great stats you offer. What are the ranking factors? So I have two questions.
Yes.
First is top 10 ranking factors, SEO ranking factors, based on the survey you did and based on your index.
So, I mean, I think that off the top of my head, I'm probably not going to be able to remember exactly the top 10 in top order.
Okay.
But we're definitely going to have those on the site and available. So some things that I would say looked like they were very important. Diversity of domains linking to you. So not just having 10,000 links, but having 10,000 different domains all linking to you seems to be very highly correlated with good rankings.
So let me stop you for a second.
Sure.
And if you can tell me where this data came from.
Sure. So really we had two sources of data for the presentation I made. One was our search engine ranking factors. The survey that we do, invitations went out to 100 SEOs worldwide, sort of top people in the field who we think really know their stuff inside and out, daily practitioners of this. And 70 of them replied and filled out the survey. Those survey results turned into what I termed expert opinion. The other side of things is data correlation. So basically we've got some developers who look at hundreds of different search results across a wide variety of different types of searches and then say, what is it that makes the difference between ranking number 1 and number 2, ranking on page 1 versus page 2, and we looked at the top 30 results and then tried to determine essentially, what's the correlation with high rankings and certain factors. So interesting stuff like the experts say H1s are very important, right? Having your keyword in your H1 tag very important. Turns out the data does not support that. There's just not a high correlation between having a good H1 tag with your keywords in there and having a good ranking. So it's possible that it helps, but no correlation.
So what are the must-haves?
Must-have are things that both people agree on, right? The experts say you got to have it, the data supports that, and certainly standard stuff, things that everyone knows about, title tags. Having your keywords closer to the front of your title tag makes a dramatic difference. In fact, one of the data grids I showed was basically a chart and it's a line straight down. The further from the front of the title tag your keyword is, the lower the correlation with high rankings. So, this sort of backs up the intuition that many of us have around SEO.
Okay. So that's one.
That's one. I think that the alt text was one of the most interesting things. So one of the most interesting things that the data showed, and the experts really didn't have much to say about alt text. They said, moderately important or not very important. But the data showed that actually there's quite a good correlation between having an image on your page that has alt text of the keywords you're trying to rank for and ranking very well for that keyword. So the question would be, is that causation, right? Is it actually that alt text in a keyword really helps you boost your rankings? Or maybe more likely that many people who do very well happen to have rich content, which includes images that have good alt text. So I think there's questions. Anytime you do data studies, it's correlation versus causation. And I wouldn't suggest that this is causation. Other interesting stuff I think that we saw were URL factors. So using your keyword in the URL actually has an extremely high correlation. And in terms of importance, you could see the data was right down the way you expected it to be. Root domain usage for the keyword, sort of highest correlation. Subdomain usage second. Path usage third, and query parameters fourth. So use it in your URL. For goodness sake, try and get those keywords into the URL that you're trying to rank for.
So keyword description tag and keyword tag is not that important.
Yeah, the meta tags
not that important.
had really low correlation, and actually the experts support that as well, right? Experts say not important, data says not important.
Okay.
So if anyone says you should be doing SEO by meta tags, you just don't listen.
You can do it, but
it's not gonna help you. Yeah.
So I guess Laura was mentioning that really impact of social media on your ranking factors, and the way we define our company, our agency focuses on lodging industry, and we always say you cannot measure your return on investment, but what you're really measuring is must-have. Your website is going to do much better in search results if you have social factors attached to it. So my question is, how much traffic do you think that really universal search can bring in because of the social factor?
I don't really want to speculate on that. I would say
that the impact of social media.
The impact of social media really is felt, I believe, in other factors. Primarily link factors, but also usage data factors, search query volume, getting mentioned in important press pieces, all those kinds of things. And social media can really boost your visibility from that perspective. Social media for its own sake, right, as far as saying, oh, because I have a Twitter account or because people tweet me a lot, Google's going to rank me higher. I don't think that's the case. Likewise, if your Facebook group is very popular, this does not mean you're going to get higher rankings necessarily. It's the translation of people love your product, therefore you're very popular in social media, you get lots of mentions, you get lots of press, that translates into links, it translates into queries, it translates into data sources that the engines can and will use. That's where I see the crossover.
I guess my last question is that what is those three things which Google algorithm will never change? And I think you mentioned links. So what are the other things?
So it was interesting. The experts sort of all agreed that links may slightly diminish in importance over the next 5 or 10 years, but they're not going away. Certainly not anytime soon. This whole new signals to search engines meme that's been floating around, they feel has a very low impact on actual search results, and that really it is about links and of course about content, right? So a search engine is always going to have a hard time ranking someone who doesn't have the right keywords on that page, and I think those two are sort of universal. Find the right keywords, get the links pointing to it.
And I think you also mentioned about freshness of content.
We did talk a little about freshness. So freshness filters into this idea of QDF, right? So certain times Google will say a query deserves freshness, meaning that rather than showing the standard results, we're actually going to give a boost to something that's new because we think this topic has new things around it, right? And that could be things that are in the news, things that people are talking about in social media, which again speaks to its value. I wouldn't correlate that with the standard rankings. I would think about that almost as a separate subset of how rankings are done.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thanks a lot.